My key card barely registered in the apartment door when my phone buzzed. A network alert from Atlanta Cybernetic Strategies. Another flagged vulnerability in a client's firewall. Just what I needed after a 14-hour day debugging security protocols for a banking conglomerate. I pushed into my condo, the blessed silence of the empty space washing over me. My heels clicked on the hardwood floor as I kicked them off, letting them scatter by the entryway. My laptop bag, heavy as a brick, landed on the kitchen counter with a thud. The burgundy blazer I'd chosen that morning for the boardroom presentation now felt like a straitjacket. The digital clock on my microwave blinked 8:37 p.m. Too late for a proper dinner, too early to justify ice cream as a meal. I was settling on reheating yesterday's leftovers when my doorbell chimed, a sharp, intrusive sound that made my shoulders tense. "Who on earth?" I muttered, padding across the floor in my stocking feet. Through the peephole, the hallway light distorted the view, but I recognized her instantly. My stomach plummeted to my toes. 23 years hadn't changed that calculating stare, though the blonde hair now came from an expensive salon instead of nature. My mother, Veronica. And beside her, a young man I'd never met but who had her eyes and a slouch that screamed entitled boredom. I considered pretending I wasn't home. My fingers hovered over the deadbolt, trembling slightly. The doorbell chimed again, longer this time, more insistent. "Morgan, honey, I know you're in there. Open up. We're getting soaked out here." The endearment sounded foreign in her mouth, a word she hadn't earned the right to use. She'd abandoned that right when she walked out our front door in Charleston, suitcase in hand, never looking back at her 10-year-old daughter. I took a deep breath, schooling my features into a neutral mask, the same one I used in hostile negotiations. I swung the door open, keeping the security chain engaged. "This is unexpected," I said. My voice was flat, devoid of the emotion churning in my gut. "Surprise!" Veronica trilled, her arms outstretched as if expecting an embrace. When I didn't move, she dropped them awkwardly, her smile tightening at the edges. "Aren't you going to invite us in? It's pouring out here." I looked past her. It wasn't raining. "Of course," I said, sliding the chain back. I stepped aside, holding the door open just wide enough for them to enter. Veronica swept past me, bringing a cloud of expensive perfume and the faint, acrid scent of cigarettes. The young man followed, his eyes darting around my living room. This must be Elias, my half-brother, though we'd never spoken a single word. A memory flashed, sharp as lightning. Dad hunched over stacks of bills at our tiny kitchen table, the dark circles under his eyes, the diner's broken air conditioner during the hottest summer on record. Me, at 12, washing dishes after school, homework spread across the back counter because we couldn't afford to hire enough help. "Nice place," Elias remarked, his gaze lingering on my entertainment system. "Kinda small, though, isn't it?" "It suits my needs." I closed the door firmly, sliding the deadbolt back into place. The sound was deafening in the sudden silence. "Can I get you something to drink?" "Just water for me, dear." Veronica ran a manicured finger along my bookshelf, her eyes scanning the titles. "Got any beer?" Elias asked. He flopped onto my cream-colored couch without removing his damp jacket, pulling out his phone immediately. "No beer. Water, coffee, or tea?" "Whatever." He sighed, his thumbs already flying across the screen. Veronica circled my living room like a vulture, picking up framed photos, studying my degrees on the wall. "I've heard you're doing quite well for yourself," she said, her back to me. "Some kind of computer job, isn't it? Senior cybersecurity analyst at Atlanta Cybernetics," I said, pouring 2 glasses of water. I set them on the coffee table, intentionally avoiding the coasters. "How did you find me, Veronica?" She waved her hand dismissively, finally turning to face me. "Oh, you know how it is these days. Everything's online." A pause. "Your father mentioned you moved to Atlanta." Dad and I spoke weekly. He had never once, in 23 years, mentioned communicating with Veronica. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled. "I hear you make good money," she continued, settling into my favorite reading chair as if she owned it. "6 figures, right? That big promotion last year really set you up." My blood ran cold. I hadn't told Dad my exact salary, only that I was doing well. and my promotion to senior analyst had happened just 7 months ago. "What brings you to Atlanta?" I asked, remaining standing. I crossed my arms, creating a physical barrier. Elias glanced up from his phone, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. "Mom wanted to see you, and I'm checking out some schools." "Schools?" "Elias got accepted to a private business program at Columbia," Veronica interjected, her voice swelling with a synthetic pride. "Very exclusive. Only takes 40 students a year." "Congratulations," I offered, the word tasting like ash. "Yeah, well," Elias shrugged, pocketing his phone, "it's expensive as hell, like really expensive." My stomach tightened. The true purpose of their visit crystallized, sharp and ugly. "Morgan." Veronica leaned forward, her voice dropping into a honeyed conspiratorial tone. "Elias needs this opportunity. This program will set him up for life. Connections, prestige, everything I couldn't give you." The naked manipulation stunned me. 23 years of absolute silence, and this is what brings her back. "The tuition is steep," she continued, her eyes fixed on mine. "And then there are living expenses in Chicago. It's astronomical." "Columbia is in New York," I said quietly. "Right, New York, of course." She didn't miss a beat. "We calculated it all out. $4,500 a month would cover everything." Elias, who had been feigning boredom, looked up. "Plus, I'll need a decent laptop, one that can handle the software, and maybe a car. Public transportation in New York is sketchy." My hands were trembling, but I clenched them at my sides, keeping my voice level. "That's quite a request, from people I haven't seen in over 2 decades. Veronica's expression hardened for a fraction of a second before melting into practiced concern. "I know we have catching up to do. That's why I thought we could meet for lunch tomorrow, discuss options." She reached for my hand. "Family helps family, Morgan. You understand that better than anyone." I pulled back before her fingers could touch me. "I have meetings all day tomorrow." "Dinner, then," she pressed, her smile unwavering. "Elias's future depends on this. Wouldn't you have wanted this kind of opportunity?" The irony burned like acid in my throat. I wanted a mother who stayed. I wanted a childhood where I didn't have to work after school to help my dad keep our diner afloat. I wanted someone who remembered my birthday. "I'll check my calendar," I said finally, my voice clipped. I walked to the door and opened it. "Where are you staying?" "The Warwick," Veronica replied, standing up and smoothing her blouse. "Room 412. We'll be here through Sunday." 5 days. It felt like a life sentence. "I'll call you tomorrow," I said, holding the door open. After reluctant goodbyes and Veronica's awkward, one-armed attempt at a hug, I closed the door and slid the deadbolt into place. I leaned against the solid wood, breathing deeply, trying to steady my racing heart. My apartment felt violated, tainted by their presence. $40,500 a month, $54,000 a year, to support a half-brother I'd never known, at the request of a mother who abandoned me without a backward glance. I moved to my laptop bag on the counter, intending to pack it for the morning, but I stopped cold. My personal laptop, not my work device, was sitting on the kitchen counter, open. The screen was glowing, displaying my banking dashboard. I never left my personal laptop open, and I hadn't even touched it since getting home. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. My breath hitched. I'd kicked off my shoes, dropped my bag, and gone straight to the microwave. The laptop had been in its sleeve, inside my bag. "What the hell?" I whispered, my voice strange in the empty apartment. My pulse quickened as I approached it. The activity log on the banking site showed 3 failed login attempts. I looked at the timestamps: 8:12 p.m., 8:15 p.m., 8:17 p.m. All 20 minutes before. They rang my doorbell. They had been outside my apartment trying to breach my accounts before I even knew they were here. My hands hovered over the keyboard as dread pooled in my stomach. They didn't just show up. They planned this. The knowledge of my promotion, my salary. I navigated to my email, scanning recent messages with growing horror. There, flagged as unread, was a forwarded message. It was from my dad's email account. Attached was the internal company announcement of my promotion from 7 months ago, which I'd forwarded to him. The subject line he'd added was, "My brilliant daughter." The body of the email contained the text I'd sent him. "Don't tell anyone, Dad, but this comes with a bump to $140K. "No way," I whispered. "No, he wouldn't." My fingers trembled as I dialed my dad, Richard. He picked up on the third ring. "Hey, kiddo!" His familiar voice, warm and steady, was a lifeline. "Everything okay?" "It's late for you to be calling on a weeknight." "Dad, has anyone been in your email recently? Specifically, have you sent any messages about my job to Veronica?" His pause told me everything. "No, but—" He cleared his throat, his voice suddenly wary. "I got a notification last month about a password reset I didn't request. I changed it right away, of course. Figured it was just one of those security things." My stomach knotted so tight I thought I'd be sick. "Dad, Veronica and Elias are in Atlanta. They showed up at my door tonight. They asked me for money, lots of money." "What?" His voice sharpened with an anger I rarely heard. "Morgan, I haven't spoken to that woman since the day she left, not one single word in 23 years. I sank into a kitchen chair, suddenly lightheaded. "They knew about my promotion, Dad, the exact timing, my salary, things I never posted online, things only you knew." "Jesus Christ," he muttered. "That boy of hers. Didn't you say he was into computers? Always messing around with things he shouldn't be?" The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Elias's bored slouch, a perfect cover for his calculated interest. His casual, dismissive inspection of my living space. His immediate demand for a decent laptop on top of the $4,500 monthly payments. He wasn't just tagging along. He was the technical half of the operation. "I need to check something," I told Dad, putting him on speaker. I grabbed my work laptop from my bag, flipped it open, and bypassed my personal network, tethering directly to my phone's secure hotspot. My fingers flew across the keys, logging into my secure admin tools. I ran a trace on the IPs from the failed login attempts on my bank account. "They've been planning this," I said, half to myself. The IPs tracked back to a series of coffee shops and cheap motels in Charleston, starting 3 weeks ago. They hadn't just happened to be in Atlanta. They came specifically for me, for my money. "What do you need from me, kiddo?" Dad's heavy sigh filled the line. The question broke through the fog of shock. I straightened in my chair, the trembling in my hands, steadying. The analyst in me took over. "Everything you can remember about that password reset, Dad. Dates, times, any other unusual emails you might have received before or after. Send me everything." "I'm on it," he said, his voice now grim. "Morgan, be careful. She's not the same person you remember. She's worse." "I know," I said. "And Dad, don't respond if she contacts you. Not a word." After hanging up, I didn't reheat the leftovers. I brewed a strong pot of coffee and settled at my kitchen table. The adrenaline from the breach notification was surging, sharpening my focus. This wasn't a family drama anymore. This was a data breach. It was an attack. I created a new encrypted folder on my secure drive, labeling it Case V&E. I began methodically cataloging the evidence, screenshots of the failed login attempts, the IP traces, the forwarded email from Dad's compromised account. I documented the timestamps of their arrival and their exact financial demand. My training kicked in. Identify the breach, assess the damage, secure the perimeter. I systematically went through every account I owned, from utilities to streaming services, changing passwords to 32-character complex strings, and enabling two-factor authentication on everything. I froze my credit reports with all 3 major bureaus. My phone buzzed. A text from my colleague and friend, Julia. "How'd the board presentation go? Ready for happy hour tomorrow?" My fingers hovered over the screen. "Rain check. Family emergency. But I could use your advice. Your brother's a lawyer, right? Anyone he recommends for privacy issues? Her response was almost instant. Martin Knight. Tough as nails, smart as hell. He handles high-stakes corporate litigation, but he owes me a favor. Want his number? Yes, please. As the number came through, a soft knock startled me. I jumped, my heart leaping into my throat. Through the peephole, I saw Mrs. Wallace, my elderly neighbor from 3B, clutching her floral robe closed at her throat. I unlocked the deadbolt, my hands still shaking. "I'm so sorry to bother you so late, dear," she said, her voice a frail whisper. "But I saw that woman, the tall blonde one, checking your mailbox this afternoon." My blood chilled. "Checking my mailbox? Are you sure?" Mrs. Wallace nodded firmly. "Oh yes, around 4 o'clock. She tried the handle first, then peeked through your mail slot. I didn't think much of it. Thought maybe it was your mother, until I saw her come back later with that young man. They seemed angry. Thought you should know." "Thank you, Mrs. Wallace. Thank you so much." I locked the door, my mind racing. Mailbox tampering, a federal offense. Another piece of evidence for my growing file. My phone chimed with a new bank security alert. Unusual login attempt detected from a new device. Please verify account access. I didn't click the link. I called the number on the back of my credit card. "Ms. Riley?" "Yes," the security representative said, his voice professionally calm. "We've registered 3 additional attempts within the past hour, all from an IP address associated with the Warwick Hotel in downtown Atlanta." "Block it," I said, my voice cold. "Block that IP and flag this account. No transfers over $1 without verbal confirmation from me." By midnight, I had secured every digital asset I owned. I'd scheduled a meeting with Martin Knight for the following morning. I stood at my kitchen window, watching the distant city lights. The $4,500 a month they demanded repeated in my mind, no longer shocking, but clarifying. This wasn't about reconnecting. It wasn't about family. My mother and a half-brother I didn't know had hacked my father's email, stolen my private financial information, cased my apartment, tampered with my mail, and launched a coordinated attack to breach my bank accounts. I closed my laptop, suddenly bone-tired, but resolute. The confusion and shock had crystallized into something harder, colder. The little girl who craved her mother's approval was gone. In her place was a cybersecurity analyst who had just identified a threat, and I was going to neutralize it. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text notification while I was stirring cream into my coffee at Crimson Brew Cafe, my pre-work sanctuary. The message preview made my stomach clench. It was from Veronica. "How can you be so selfish? After all I sacrificed for you." I turned the phone face down on the table, my hand shaking. Sacrificed? What had she sacrificed? Her right to be a mother? Across the cafe, a toddler giggled as her father pretended a spoon was an airplane. The scene of normal, happy family life felt like it belonged to a different universe. "Ready to order, Ms. Riley." The barista, Tina, hovered nearby. "Just the coffee today, Tina. Thanks." The peaceful moment shattered 2 hours later. I was deep in a code review when the cafe door swung open and Veronica strode in, her heels clicking aggressively on the hardwood floor. She spotted me instantly, her eyes narrowing. "Morgan." She projected her voice loud enough that several patrons turned to stare. "I've been trying to reach you all morning. You've been ignoring my calls." I kept my expression neutral, slowly closing my laptop. "It's been 2 hours, Veronica, and I've been working." She dropped into the chair opposite mine, her platinum blonde hair swinging perfectly into place. "You're avoiding us. Elias's enrollment deadline is next week. We need to finalize this." "Finalize what?" "There is nothing to finalize." "Family comes first," she snapped, reaching for my hand across the table. "You should understand that better than anyone, considering how your father struggled after I left." My pulse hammered in my throat. I pulled my hand away before she could touch me. "Is that what you're calling abandonment now? Struggled after I left?" Heads turned in our direction. Veronica's face flushed crimson. "How dare you? Her voice rose, cracking with manufactured outrage. "You have no idea what I went through. I had to choose my own survival. And you left a 10-year-old to figure out hers." I stood, gathering my laptop bag. "This isn't the place to discuss this." "Everyone," Veronica announced, standing up and addressing the now silent cafe. "My daughter, Morgan Riley, makes 6 figures at her fancy tech job, Atlanta Cybernetics, right down the street, but she won't help her own brother go to college." Heat flooded my face. The barista shot me a sympathetic glance. "What kind of person?" Veronica continued, her voice dripping with venom. "Refuses to help her own family?" "We're done here," I said quietly, walking toward the door. "You ungrateful child," she shrieked at my back. "You should be thankful I gave you life. You'll hear from me." I didn't turn back. I walked straight out the door, the stares of the other customers burning into my back. That afternoon, I discovered she'd taken the fight public. A social media post tagging distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Heartbroken that my daughter, or Morgan Riley ACS, has forgotten where she came from, success changes people. Ungrateful children, broken family. Within the hour, my phone lit up with calls from relatives I barely knew, all of them armed with Veronica's manipulated version of events. "Morgan, honey," my Aunt Patty's voice quavered when I finally answered. "Your mother is devastated. Surely you can spare something for Elias. He's your blood." "Did she mention she abandoned me at 10, Aunt Patty?" My voice sounded steadier than I felt, or that she hasn't called me in 23 years until she wanted money. "Did she mention she hacked my dad's email?" "Well, no, but—" "I need to go, Aunt Patty. Take care." I blocked 3 more numbers before my phone buzzed with a text from Elias. "Mom's crying because of you. Man up and do the right thing. $4,500 is nothing to you. I need this now." My finger hovered over the block button, but a new idea struck me, cold and precise. Instead, I screenshotted the message. I saved it to my Case V&E folder under a new subfolder labeled Documentation. That evening, after the public humiliation at the cafe and the barrage of calls, a new text came through. It was from Elias. "Hey, look, I'm sorry about today. Mom gets emotional. She doesn't mean it." I stared at the message, my suspicion overriding any flicker of hope. I didn't reply. Another message popped up. "Seriously, she's a mess. She's not mad at you, she's scared. The real reason we're here, she's in deep. She owes money to a really bad person, a predatory lender." I read the words, my analyst brain kicking in. This was a classic social engineering tactic. Pivot from aggression to sympathy. Create a new external threat. "What are you talking about?" I typed back, keeping it simple. "This guy, he's ruined her. He's an online loan shark. She's terrified. That's why she's so desperate for the school money. It's not for me, it's for him." Another message. "Look, you're the computer genius. I found his website. Can you just look at it? See if he's legit? I think he's running a scam. If you could find something on him, maybe we could get the police involved. Mom's too scared." A link followed. www.capitalresolvesolutions.net. My blood ran cold. He was asking me to perform a penetration test on an unknown target using my resources. "You have got to be kidding me," I whispered to the empty room. The bait was obvious, but the potential payoff was interesting. If he was telling the truth, it was a way out. If he was lying, it was a trap. And I was very, very good at dissecting traps. I moved to my workstation, not my personal laptop. I spun up an isolated virtual machine, my sandbox, completely disconnected from my personal network and the Atlanta Cybernetics mainframe. I routed the connection through 3 anonymous proxies. "Okay, Elias," I muttered, cracking my knuckles. "Let's see what you got." I loaded the website. It was crude, full of stock photos of smiling families and promises of fast cash. I ran a basic vulnerability scan. The site was a fortress, strangely, almost professionally secure for a simple loan sharking front. "Too clean," I murmured. I dug deeper, examining the site's source code, and there it was. Hidden in a seemingly innocent JavaScript file for a loan calculator was a highly obfuscated, malicious payload. It wasn't a simple virus. It was a keylogger and a remote access Trojan, RAT, specifically designed to target corporate financial systems. It was looking for VPN credentials, RSA tokens, and specific accounting software strings. This wasn't for getting police involved. This was an attempt to plant a backdoor. He was trying to get me to hack this site from my work computer, I realized, my stomach twisting. If I had been naive, if I had just clicked that link on my company device, he could have gained access to Atlanta Cybernetics, to our clients, to the banks. I was paid to protect. The audacity of it. The sheer sociopathic nerve, rage, cold and pure, washed over me. This wasn't just about money anymore. He had tried to use me to commit corporate espionage. He had put my entire career on the line. I carefully packaged the malicious code, documented its behavior, and traced the website's registration. It was registered 2 weeks ago to an anonymous proxy in Eastern Europe, but the payment was made from a credit card linked to a public IP address, the IP address of the Warwick Hotel. I saved the entire analysis, every log and every screenshot into my evidence folder. My professional humiliation burned hotter than my personal betrayal. The next morning, I was in Martin Knight's downtown law office at 7 a.m. sharp. His office was minimalist, steel and glass overlooking the city. Martin himself was in his 50s, with a salt and pepper beard, a perfectly pressed charcoal suit, and eyes that looked like they could spot a lie from a mile away. "Ms. Riley," he said, not standing. He gestured to a chair. "Julia speaks highly of you. She said it was a privacy issue. I handle mergers and intellectual property theft. Family law is down the hall." "This isn't family law, Mr. Knight." I opened my laptop and placed it on his desk, swiveling the screen to face him. "This is cyber-stalking, wire fraud, attempted identity theft, mail tampering, and as of last night, attempted corporate espionage." For the next 30 minutes, I laid it all out. The compromised email, the IP logs, the screenshots of the social media harassment, the bank alerts, and finally, the full analysis of the phishing attempt from Elias. I showed him the code, the payload, and the IP trace linking the site's payment back to their hotel. Martin Knight, who had been leaning back in his chair, slowly leaned forward. The bored litigator was gone. His eyes were sharp, focused. "He tried to get you to deploy a rat on your company network," Martin said, his voice flat. "He did. And you have the payload, the analysis, and the packet captures linking it to him?" "I do." Martin nodded slowly. "Smart move using the sandbox." "Most people would have just clicked." He looked at the folder of texts and social media posts. "And this is the public harassment campaign. They're trying to leverage me into paying by threatening my reputation." "Not just your reputation," Martin corrected. "Your career. If your employers caught wind of this—" "I know." "Good." He steepled his fingers. "Okay, this is what we do. We're not sending a cease and desist. That's for amateurs. We're going to build a cage for them." He explained the plan. We would file for an emergency protective order, but we wouldn't serve them yet. "They're arrogant," Martin said. "They think you're an emotional, guilty daughter. They don't know you're an analyst. Let them keep going. Let them build our case for us." "You want me to let them keep attacking me?" "I want you to document them attacking you, every text, every call, every public scene. Record everything. Georgia is a one-party consent state. If you are a part of the conversation, you can record it. Let them dig their own graves." He looked at my file. "This is excellent, but we need more. We need to show a clear, undeniable pattern of escalation. They're getting desperate. Desperate people make mistakes." I left Martin's office feeling a strange sense of calm. The fear was gone, replaced by a cold, clear sense of purpose. I had a plan. I had a legal strategy. That evening, I drove to Best Buy and purchased a new high-definition doorbell camera and window sensors. As I was installing the doorbell cam, Mrs. Wallace stopped by with a plate of snickerdoodles. "Saw you putting in that new security system," she said, eyeing the empty packaging. "Everything okay, dear?" "Just being cautious, Mrs. Wallace," I replied, accepting the cookies. That night, I made 2 more calls. The first was to schedule an appointment with Dr. Harriet Dane, a therapist specializing in family trauma. Martin had been insistent. "You're going to need a neutral party to document the emotional distress," he'd said. The second call was to my father. "Dad," I said, "can you come to Atlanta this weekend? I could use some support." "I'm already packing, kiddo." 3 days later, Veronica requested another meeting. Her texts had shifted from angry to conciliatory. "Morgan, please, I know I was emotional. I was just hurt. Let's just talk. No pressure. I just want to see my daughter." I agreed, on my terms. "A public park," I texted back. "Tomorrow at noon, Piedmont Park, by the lake." I arrived 15 minutes early. I chose a picnic table with a clear view of all approaches, my back to a large oak tree. I sat down, opened a voice recorder app on my phone, set it to record, and placed it in my pocket. Veronica arrived exactly 15 minutes late, a classic power move. Her expression was rehearsed into one of soft contrition. "Morgan," she began, sitting opposite me, "I want to apologize for the other day. At the cafe, I was emotional. I was out of line." "Thank you." "You have to understand." Her voice took on that syrupy quality I now recognized as her primary manipulation tool. When a mother sees her child struggling, she'll do anything. Elias, he deserves the same opportunities you had. I kept my voice calm, just as Martin had advised. "I worked 3 jobs during college, Veronica. I paid for it with scholarships and student loans. No one paid my way." Her lips tightened. "That's because Richard was too proud to ask for help. He let you struggle. Family helps family, Morgan. It's just what we do." "Is that what you did? When you left a 10-year-old girl with no warning and no support?" The question slipped out, sharper than I intended. Her mask of contrition vanished. "I gave you life," she hissed, her voice low and venomous. "You should be grateful for that much. Everything you have because I endured childbirth for you. You owe me." "I owe you nothing." I stood up, my hands clenched. "Family respects boundaries, Veronica. My boundary is this. I will not be funding Elias's education. I will not be giving you any money, not now, not ever. After everything I've done for you." "What exactly have you done?" I shot back. "Name one thing. One birthday card, one phone call, one child support check that you actually sent." She stuttered, her face contorted with rage. She abruptly gathered her purse. "I won't sit here and be attacked by my own daughter. You'll regret this selfishness, Morgan. I promise you, you will regret this." She stormed off. I waited until she was out of sight before I stopped the recording. I saved the file. Park meeting threat MP3s. I felt drained when I got back to my apartment. My father's familiar pickup truck was parked in the visitor spot. I opened my door and he was standing in my living room, a duffel bag at his feet. He just opened his arms. I hugged him, burying my face in his shoulder, the familiar scent of Old Spice and diner coffee enveloping me. I hadn't realized how much I needed that hug until that moment. "Your mother always did have a talent for creating hurricanes wherever she went," he said, holding me tight. "I'm handling it, Dad." "I know you are." He smiled, the crinkles around his eyes deepening. "You get that from me, not her. I just figured you shouldn't have to handle it alone." That evening, as we were trying to decide on pizza, my phone pinged with a high-priority bank security alert. My heart hammered. I grabbed my laptop and opened my banking portal. Critical alert. A transfer of $12,000 from your savings account to an unknown recipient has been initiated and blocked pending your approval. "They're doing it right now," I said, my voice shaking. "Dad, they're trying to empty my savings." As I spoke, another alert popped up. Critical alert. A transfer of $8,000. I immediately called the bank's fraud department. The direct line to Adam, the security specialist Martin Knight had put me in touch with. "They're in, Adam," I said, putting him on speaker. 2 attempts in the last 60 seconds. "I see them, Ms. Riley." His voice was calm and professional. "They're getting sloppy. They're using the same device they used for the initial failed logins, the one registered to Elias Grayson. This is beautiful. Dad, they're not even hiding it." "You sure about this, Shell?" Dad watched from the kitchen doorway, his expression solemn. I looked at the flashing alerts on my screen. This was the escalation Martin had been waiting for. "Let's see how far they'll really go," I said. "Adam, log everything. Do not block the device. Just block the transfers." "Consider it done, Ms. Riley." "We've got them." I forwarded the alerts to Martin Knight. This was the beginning of the end. My phone lit up at 6:15 a.m., a notification from Adam's team at the bank. "Login attempt 0614 failed. Login attempt 0615 failed." "Right on schedule," I murmured, tapping the notification to document the timestamps. The coffee maker gurgled in the kitchen as I added these latest attempts to my spreadsheet. Time, IP address, device signature, all meticulously cataloged. The phone rang. It was Dad calling from the guest room. I picked up. "Dad, I'm in the kitchen." "No, listen." His voice was low. "They're getting desperate. Veronica just called me." My stomach tightened. What did she want? "To tell me you're having a mental breakdown." His voice carried decades of weary familiarity with Veronica's tactics. "Said you're paranoid, refusing to help family, and making up vicious lies about them trying to access your accounts." "Did you record it?" "Every word," he said. "Martin was right. I put the phone on speaker and used my voice recorder app. She claims you inherited your instability from my side of the family." Dad's laugh held no humor. Rich? Coming from a woman who abandoned her 10-year-old daughter without a backward glance. I checked my work email. My blood turned to ice. 3 new security alerts from Atlanta Cybernetics. "Oh my God," I whispered. "What is it?" "Elias, he tried to access my company account last night. He tried to get into the company network." "Jesus, Morgan, can they arrest him for that?" "Our security team is building a case," I said, scrolling through the technical report my IT director had forwarded. "They traced the attempts to a coffee shop near the Warwick. The stupid kid didn't even use a VPN. He used the same laptop he used for the bank attacks." The doorbell chimed. My new camera feed popped up on my phone, showing Mrs. Wallace holding a plate covered with aluminum foil. I opened the door, the security chain still on. "Thought you might need some real food," she said, passing the plate through the gap. My herald always said banana bread helped him think clearer during his days at the DA's office. The unexpected kindness caught in my throat. "Thank you, Mrs. Wallace." "Those two still hanging around?" She peered past me into the apartment. "Not physically," I said, "but they're keeping busy." After she left, my phone buzzed with a voicemail notification. It was Veronica. Her voice was trembling with manufactured emotion. "Morgan, honey, please call me back. I'm at St. Dominic's Medical Center, the emergency room." A theatrical pause. "Something's wrong with my heart. The doctors are, well, I don't want to frighten you, but they're running tests." "I need you here, sweetie. Family should be together in times like this." My fingers hovered over the callback button, a reflexive response bred from childhood guilt. Instead, I dialed the hospital's main line directly. "St. Dominic's Emergency Department, this is Jessica." "Hello, I'm checking on a patient who was admitted this morning. Veronica Grayson." A shuffle of papers. "Can you spell the last name, please?" "Grayson." A pause. "I'm not seeing anyone by that name admitted today." "She called claiming to be in your emergency room with heart problems." Another pause. "Ma'am, we haven't had any cardiac admissions in the past 3 hours. Would you like me to check if she's registered under a different name?" "No need, thank you." I hung up and saved the call log. Timestamp noted. This manipulation tactic joined the others in my collection of evidence. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Morgan Riley? A woman's voice, vaguely familiar but unplaceable. Yes, who's calling? This is Pamela Lombard, Veronica's sister. My aunt. A shadow figure known only through Dad's occasional bitter mentions. My defenses shot up. If you're calling to convince me to give them money, God, no. She cut me off with a harsh laugh. I'm calling to warn you. This isn't their first rodeo, honey. The coffee grew cold beside me as Pamela unraveled a pattern spanning 2 decades. Veronica and Elias had worked this scheme on multiple relatives, friends, even Veronica's second husband's family. 3 years ago, Pamela said, her voice tight with anger, they convinced my daughter Jessica to co-sign on a car loan for Elias. He defaulted after 2 months, ruined Jessica's credit score. We had to pay $20,000 to keep the collectors away. Why are you telling me this? I asked, though I already knew. Because Veronica is spinning quite a story to the whole family. Says you're rich and selfish, refusing to help poor Elias. Says you're punishing her for old mistakes. Honey, I've watched this show too many times. Don't fall for it. She'll bleed you dry and then vanish. After I hung up, an idea sparked. Martin said we needed to show a pattern. Pamela's testimony was good, but I needed something concrete from the past. I called Dad. Dad, do you still have the old divorce papers? From you and Veronica? In a box in the attic. Why? Did she ever pay child support? She was ordered to, he scoffed. Sent a few checks the first year. I never cashed them. Wanted to prove I didn't need her. After that, they stopped. You still have them? The uncashed checks? I think so. In the same box. Dad, I need them. I need those papers and those checks. Can you overnight them? Today? Use FedEx. Signature required. Consider it done, he said, the grim determination back in his voice. The next day, I tracked the package obsessively. It was out for delivery at 9:15 a.m. I stayed home from work, waiting. At 11:30 a.m., my phone buzzed. Your package has been delivered and signed for. I frowned. I hadn't heard the doorbell. I went to my door. The hallway was empty. No package. My heart started to pound. I ran back to my laptop and pulled up the feed from my new doorbell camera. I rewound the footage to 11:29 a.m. I watched, horrified, as the FedEx driver walked up to my door. Before he could even knock, Elias stepped out from the stairwell. Oh, hi, Elias said on the video, his voice perfectly casual. That's for 3A, right? Morgan Riley, I'm her brother, just heading in. I can take it for her. I need a signature, the driver said. No problem. Elias scribbled on the device and took the package. He glanced directly at my doorbell camera, a slow, malicious smirk spreading across his face. Then he turned and walked back down the stairs. He knew I was watching. He'd been waiting. I sank into my chair. The physical evidence, the divorce papers proving her abandonment, the uncashed checks proving her financial neglect, all of it, gone. My smoking gun was in their hands, probably already destroyed. I called Martin, my voice tight. He took the package. He intercepted the FedEx delivery. Martin was silent for a moment. Okay, so that's a new federal charge. Mail theft, but it means the physical evidence is gone. He's not stupid. He's arrogant, but not stupid. So, what do we do? I felt a wave of despair. We pivot, Martin said, his voice hard. They want to play? Fine. They just destroyed the evidence of their past crimes, so we'll bury them with the evidence of their present ones. Stay the course, Morgan. They're getting more aggressive. The office is next. Martin was right. The very next day, the lobby of Atlanta Cybernetics buzzed with the usual Tuesday morning energy when a commotion erupted near the reception desk. I glanced up from my tablet to see Veronica, sobbing dramatically into a crumpled tissue, her blonde hair falling strategically across her face. My stomach dropped as several colleagues turned toward the scene. "Please," she wailed, loud enough for the entire first floor to hear. "I need to see my daughter. It's a family emergency." Elias stood behind her, hands jammed into the pockets of his designer jeans, a mask of rehearsed concern painted across his features. I froze, coffee mug suspended halfway to my lips. 3 months. 3 months of this escalating from texts to calls to my cafe. And now they had crossed the final line. They were at my workplace. Sandra, our security-conscious receptionist, caught my eye with a questioning look. I gave a single slight shake of my head. Sandra turned back to Veronica. "Ma'am, I can't allow you upstairs without an appointment and proper clearance." "Morgan!" Veronica spotted me across the lobby. Oh, thank God. She rushed toward the security turnstiles. "Morgan, honey, the doctor says I might have... Well, it's serious. We need to talk about family medical history. Things you need to know." My colleague's eyes were burning into my back as I approached the desk. My pulse thundered in my ears, but I kept my steps measured. Dr. Dane's words from yesterday's session echoed in my mind. Your reaction is within your control, even when their behavior isn't. Veronica, I kept my voice level and cold. This is inappropriate. This is my place of work. Inappropriate? Her voice rose an octave, cracking with disbelief. My own daughter is talking about appropriateness when I might have cancer. After everything I sacrificed for you? The audacity stole my breath. "We can discuss this elsewhere," I said, conscious of the whispers rippling through the lobby. "There's nothing to discuss," Elias interjected, stepping forward to stand beside her. He was no longer playing the bored kid. His eyes were cold. "We're family. You help family. It's simple." He lowered his voice, just enough for me and Sandra to hear. "Unless you want everyone here knowing what kind of daughter you really are." The threat hung between us, thick and toxic. My hand tightened around my coffee mug, my knuckles white. "My mother abandoned me when I was 10, I said, my voice quiet but carrying in the sudden hush. "You don't get to lecture me about family." 2 building security guards were now approaching, alerted by Sandra. "This isn't the end," Veronica shrieked as the guards gently but firmly began to escort her toward the door. "You'll regret this. You'll regret this public humiliation. I know people in your industry." After they were escorted out, the lobby was silent. I could feel every eye on me. I just turned, walked back to my desk, and sat down. My phone lit up. A text from Elias. "That stunt cost you." HR gets anonymous tips about unstable employees all the time. Family drama affecting work performance. It's a bad look. One payment fixes everything. I screenshotted the text. I forwarded it to Martin. Then I stood up and walked straight to my boss's office and then to HR. I was going to get ahead of this. I was going to tell them the truth, backed by my evidence file. The next day, the county courthouse loomed like a fortress of beige stone and bureaucracy. I gripped the handle of my documentation binder, now 3 inches thick, so tightly my knuckles blanched. Martin met us at the entrance, his silver hair catching the morning sunlight. "Remember," he said as we navigated security, "you are the victim. You are a professional who is being harassed. Let the evidence speak. Judge Wagner appreciates organization and facts. She has no patience for drama." Dad squeezed my shoulder. "You've got this, Shell." Courtroom 4C smelled of lemon polish and nervous sweat. Veronica and Elias were already there, sitting on the opposite side. The transformation was calculated. Veronica wore a modest, high-necked gray dress, her makeup subdued, her hair pulled back in a simple bun. Elias wore a suit that was slightly too large for him, making him look like a chastened schoolboy. They both stared straight ahead, masks of solemn victimhood firmly in place. When Judge Wagner entered, the room stilled. She was a small woman with steel gray hair and piercing eyes that missed nothing. Case number 2025 CV 4872, Riley versus Grayson and Grant, the bailiff announced. The proceedings blurred until Martin called me to the stand. As I approached, I could feel Veronica's eyes locked onto mine, a predator's gaze, calculating weakness. I placed my hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and faced Martin. Ms. Riley, please tell the court about the night of August 12th. My voice, to my relief, barely wavered. I recounted the night Veronica and Elias appeared at my door after 23 years. I detailed their immediate, casual inspection of my home, their specific knowledge of my salary, and their demand for $54,000 a year. And after you declined to provide this financial support, Martin asked, what happened? They escalated, I said. I detailed the unauthorized bank access attempts, the mailbox tampering witnessed by my neighbor, the public confrontation at the Crimson Brew Cafe, the social media harassment campaign, and then, Martin prompted, the escalation moved from personal to professional, correct? Yes. Elias, the respondent, I said, pointing at him, sent me a phishing link attempting to gain access to my work credentials and my company's network. Veronica's lawyer jumped up. Objection! Hearsay! Speculation! Overruled, Judge Wagner said, her eyes on me. Do you have proof of this, Ms. Riley? I do, Your Honor. Martin nodded. Submit Exhibit D, digital forensic analysis. He handed the judge and the opposing counsel a bound report. It was my full analysis of the malware, the packet captures, and the IP trace linking the phishing site's payment directly to Elias's device at the Warwick Hotel. Veronica's lawyer's face went pale as he read it. Martin continued methodically. Ms. Riley, did the harassment continue? Yes. Respondent Veronica Grayson left me a voicemail claiming to be in the emergency room at St. Dominic's with a heart condition. Submit Exhibit E, audio recording. Martin played the recording of Veronica's trembling, urgent voice. Then he played the recording of my subsequent call to the hospital, with the administrator confirming no patient named Veronica Grayson had been admitted. A low murmur went through the courtroom. Veronica stared at the floor. An Exhibit F, Martin said, an audio recording of a meeting in Piedmont Park where Respondent Grayson threatened the petitioner. He played the clip. Veronica's voice, no longer trembling, filled the room. You'll regret this selfishness, Morgan. I promise you, you will regret this. And finally, Martin said, what happened yesterday? I detailed the scene in my office lobby, the false claims of cancer, the public humiliation, and Elias's final text message. Submit Exhibit G, text message. Martin displayed the screenshot on the overhead projector for the entire court to see. That stunt cost you. HR gets anonymous tips. One payment fixes everything. This, Martin said, turning to the judge, is not a family dispute. This is textbook harassment, extortion, and attempted wire fraud. The respondents have systematically escalated their attacks, moving from emotional manipulation to digital attacks, and culminating in direct threats to Ms. Riley's professional livelihood. When Veronica's attorney took his turn, he tried to paint her as a misunderstood mother, desperate to reconnect, lashing out from a place of pain and regret. When Elias took the stand, his testimony contradicted Veronica's on 3 key points about their timeline. He was a terrible liar. Judge Wagner reviewed the final bank security report, showing all 17 attempted access incidents from the 3 devices registered to Elias. She looked at the HR report from my company, documenting their disruptive and threatening behavior. She took off her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. The court finds clear and convincing evidence, she announced, her voice sharp, of a systematic and malicious campaign of harassment, intimidation, and attempted financial exploitation. She looked directly at Veronica and Elias. This is not family helping family. This is predation. The protective order is granted, she declared, against both respondents for a period of 2 years. You are to have no contact with Ms. Riley. None. No calls, no texts, no emails, no social media contact, no third-party contact. You are to remain 500 feet away from her person, her residence, and her place of work at Atlanta Cybernetics. Each violation carries a $5,000 penalty and potential jail time. The gavel struck with a sharp final crack. Outside the courthouse, the bright Atlanta sunlight warmed my face. Martin handed me the official, signed copy of the protective order. With this in place, he explained, we can hold the potential criminal charges for the mail theft and the phishing attempt, but the paperwork is filed. If they so much as text you, they will be arrested. Dad wrapped his arm around my shoulders. Let's go home, Shell. As we descended the courthouse steps, I caught a glimpse of Veronica and Elias, huddled with their attorney. Their faces, no longer masked with faux piety, were contorted with frustration and raw anger. For the first time in 3 months, seeing their expressions didn't trigger guilt or fear. It triggered nothing at all. Later that evening, I received a text from my Aunt Pamela. Heard through the grapevine, Veronica and Elias have listed their Chicago apartment. Apparently, they're relocating to a smaller town. Seems their social circle in Charleston finally heard about their little courtroom defeat. I placed my phone face down on the coffee table. I took a deep breath, the first truly deep breath I'd taken in months. The walls of my condo no longer felt like they were closing in. For the first time since they reappeared in my life, I slept through the night. I didn't check my security system. I didn't check my bank alerts. Some victories don't roar. They whisper, "You're safe now." 6 months later, the evening Austin air carried the scent of rosemary and garlic through my open balcony door. My fingers traced the new biometric lock panel beside my front door, a small reminder of victory, not trauma. "Morgan, these potatoes need another minute," Dad's voice called from my kitchen. He stood over my stove, wearing the faded Charleston diner apron I'd thought was long gone. "No rush, Dad." I arranged water glasses on my small dining table, already set for 4. The doorbell chimed. I smiled. The sound no longer sent adrenaline coursing through my veins. Progress. Through the peephole, I saw Julia from work and Martin Knight, whose legal expertise had saved more than just my bank account. I swung the door open. "Come in. Dinner's almost ready. Dad's insisting on making his famous garlic potatoes." Martin held up a bottle of Cabernet. "Thought we could toast your promotion properly." "Senior lead analyst has a very nice ring to it." "It really does," Julia added, squeezing my arm. The conversation flowed effortlessly through dinner. We laughed about Martin's latest courtroom antics and Dad's stories about the regulars at his diner. No tense pauses, no analyzing hidden motives, just genuine connection. After dessert, Dad pulled a folder from his bag. "I wanted to show you these retirement numbers," he said, his weathered hands spreading papers across the table. The offer on the diner came through, higher than I expected. I studied the figures. "This is great, Dad. You could fully retire next year." "Semi-retirement," he corrected, still planning to consult with the new owners 3 days a week. "Smart move." I pulled out my own folder. "And I've set up that monthly transfer we talked about. $600, direct deposit to your account. No more, no less." Dad nodded, understanding the boundary we'd set. For years, I'd sent him money haphazardly whenever guilt struck, often overextending myself. Now we had structure, clarity. "That's more than generous, Mickey." His childhood nickname for me brought warmth, not obligation. Later, after our guests left, Dad helped me load the dishwasher. "Dr. Dane thinks I've made real progress," I mentioned casually. "You seem lighter," he agreed, handing me a plate. "Less burdened." "I wrote something in my journal last night that finally made sense." I leaned against the counter. "Love doesn't require the sacrifice of self." Dad paused, a plate in midair. "Took me 60 years to learn that, kiddo." The next morning, I made calls to 3 local high schools. I was expanding my mentorship program for young women in STEM. What had begun with 2 hesitant students had grown to 15. I donated 10% of my income to their scholarship fund, not from guilt, but from purpose. "We'd love to have you speak next month." the guidance counselor said. These girls need to hear from someone who's overcome obstacles, not just succeeded. I'd be honored. The words came easily now. I was no longer ashamed of my story. That evening, I stood on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the Atlanta skyline in amber and rose. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I'm in town next week. Can we meet? 6 months ago, this message would have sent me spiraling into panic. Now I just considered it. Then I typed my reply. I'm not ready for that, but I wish you well. When you're ready to demonstrate change through actions rather than words, let me know. I blocked the number. I set the phone down, feeling neither vindictive nor guilty, just at peace. Back inside, I opened my journal. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is protect yourself from the family you were born into, so you can build the family you choose. I closed the journal and looked around my apartment. No longer just a place I slept, but a sanctuary I had earned, protected not by locks and code, but by the boundaries I had finally learned to maintain. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.